The priest didn't stop the exorcism. He stopped because something spoke back, using his own voice. Hi, my name's Daniel. I'm 31, from Batangas, and I've been trying to convince myself that what happened in our house is already over. But last night, at exactly 2:17 a.m., I heard something again, and it sounded like me. This all started with my younger sister, Elise. She was 19 at the time, quiet, not antisocial, just someone who preferred being alone. She liked writing, not stories, not poems, just thoughts. Pages filled with random sentences, things that didn't always connect, but somehow made sense to her. She wasn't religious. None of us really were. We believed, but not enough to think about it every day. We lived a normal life, a quiet one, nothing strange, nothing unusual, until she stopped sleeping. At first, it didn't seem serious. People lose sleep all the time. Stress, phones, overthinking. But this was different. 3 nights passed, then 4, then 5, and she still wasn't tired. No yawning, no complaints, no headaches, nothing. She would just sit on her bed every night, looking up at the ceiling, not moving, not reacting, just staring, like she was watching something we couldn't see. I asked her one night, "Are you okay?" She didn't answer right away. Then, slowly, without looking at me, she said, "It's louder when it's dark." I felt something shift inside me when she said that. Not fear, not yet, just discomfort. I tried to joke about it, said maybe it was the neighbors or stray animals on the roof, but she shook her head, slowly, and said, "It doesn't like when you're here." That was the first moment I didn't want to stay in that room anymore. There was nothing visible, nothing I could point at and say, "That's the problem." But the air felt wrong, heavy, like it was pressing down on my chest. I left her room that night, telling myself she just needed rest, but deep down, something already felt off. A few nights later, I woke up suddenly. No reason, no sound that I could remember, just awake. I checked my phone, 2:03 a.m., and then I heard it, her voice, soft, whispering, coming from her room. At first, I thought she was talking on the phone, but something didn't feel right. There were no pauses, no silence between words, no reaction. She wasn't having a conversation, she was answering something. I got out of bed. The hallway was dark, only a faint light coming from under her door. It was slightly open, just enough for me to hear clearly. I stepped closer, careful, slow, and then I heard her say, "I won't say your name, not yet." Then, silence, complete silence, the kind that feels unnatural, like sound itself stopped existing. I pushed the door open, slowly. It creaked, just a little. She was sitting on her bed, facing the wall, not moving, not reacting, like she didn't even notice I was there. I asked, "Who are you talking to?" Nothing. No response. Then something answered, from behind me. "You're not the one I'm waiting for." I froze. Every part of my body locked. I didn't turn around. I couldn't, because in that moment, I was completely sure of one thing. If I looked, I would see something that I wasn't supposed to see, and once I saw it, it wouldn't go away. I stepped out of the room slowly, carefully, trying not to show fear, even though I couldn't breathe properly anymore. I closed the door behind me, and I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. The next morning, everything felt normal again. Too normal. Elise was eating breakfast, scrolling on her phone, like nothing happened. I asked her, "Did you sleep?" She nodded, said yes, said she felt fine. I asked her if she remembered talking last night. She looked confused, shook her head, and said, "No." That should have made me feel better, but it didn't, because something inside me knew she wasn't lying. She really didn't remember, and somehow that made it worse. Over the next few days, things started changing, not suddenly, slowly, like something was adjusting, little by little. She blinked less. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but then I started watching carefully. Her eyes would stay open just a second longer than normal, then 2 seconds, then sometimes she wouldn't blink at all, just staring at nothing or at something we couldn't see. And then came the writing. She started filling notebooks faster than before, page after page, non-stop, no breaks, no hesitation, just writing, like her hand already knew what to do. I took one of her notebooks when she left the room. At first, it looked like nonsense, symbols, broken words, letters that didn't connect. But then I saw it. One word, repeated, over and over. Beelzebub. Beelzebub. It was written again and again and again. Different sizes, different pressure, sometimes clean, sometimes scratched into the page like the pen was about to tear through it. I flipped through more pages, the same word, over and over, until it wasn't just a word anymore. It looked like something else, like a pattern, like it meant more than just a name. I closed the notebook. My hands were shaking, not violently, just enough for me to notice I wasn't in control anymore. That night, I didn't say anything. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't confront Elise. I just watched, carefully, quietly, trying to understand what was happening. Around midnight, she went to her room again, closed the door, and the house went silent. Too silent. The kind of silence that makes every small sound feel louder. Clock ticking, air moving, even my own breathing felt wrong. Then I heard it, a soft tapping coming from the ceiling, not fast, not random, rhythmic, like something was trying to get attention. I looked up. There was nothing, just the ceiling, still, unmoving, but the sound continued. Tap, tap, tap. Then it stopped, and from Elise's room, I heard her laugh again, soft, low, almost amused. I stood up, walked toward her door, slower than before, like something inside me didn't want to get there too quickly. Her door was closed this time, but I could hear her clearly. She was talking again, whispering, and this time there was a pause, like something was answering her back. I leaned closer to the door, trying to hear better, and then she said, "You're getting closer." Silence. Then she whispered again, "I can hear you clearer now." My chest tightened, because this time it didn't sound like she was scared. It sounded like she was expecting it, like she had been waiting.
I reached for the doorknob and stopped because something inside me said, "Don't open it." But I ignored it. I turned the knob slowly, opened just enough to see inside. The room was dim, only her desk lamp was on. She was sitting on the floor this time, surrounded by papers, writing again, faster than before, her hand moving like it didn't need to think. I stepped inside. "Elise!" No response. She didn't even pause. I moved closer, and then I saw it. The papers around her were filled with the same word, Beelzebub. But now, it wasn't just written, it was layered, overlapping, repeated so many times it started forming shapes, circles, lines, patterns, like something was being drawn without her realizing it. I said her name again, louder this time. "Elise!" Her hand stopped. Slowly, she turned her head and looked at me. Her eyes, they didn't feel empty. They felt occupied, like someone else was looking through them. She smiled and said, "You saw it, didn't you?" My throat went dry. I didn't answer. She tilted her head slightly, then said, "It likes when you see it." I stepped back, instinctively, not because she moved, but because something about her changed. She wasn't just Elise anymore. She was something else, and it knew that I knew. The next day, we called for help. Not immediately. We hesitated, tried to explain it away. Stress, sleep deprivation, mental breakdown, anything except what it actually felt like. But that night, something happened that we couldn't ignore anymore. Around 1:40 a.m., the power went out. No warning, no sound, just darkness, complete darkness. And in that darkness, I heard footsteps, not mine, not anyone else in the house, slow, careful, walking across the ceiling, above me, step, step, step. Then it stopped, right above my bed. I held my breath, waiting, listening, and then something whispered, right above me, "Say it." My entire body went cold because I knew what it wanted me to say. I didn't respond. I didn't move. I just stayed there, completely still, until morning came. And that was the moment we knew this wasn't going to stop. That same day, we contacted a priest, not from our parish. Someone recommended a specialist, someone who had dealt with cases that couldn't be explained. When he arrived, he didn't introduce himself properly. He didn't ask for details. He just stood outside the house, looking at it for a long time. Then he said, "This is already inside." And that's when I realized we were already too late.
The priest didn't move for a long time. He stood outside the house, looking at it, like he was trying to understand something that didn't make sense. Then finally, he stepped forward, slow, careful, like he already knew he wasn't in control anymore. When he entered, the air inside the house changed. Not colder, not warmer, just heavier, like something noticed him immediately. He didn't greet us, didn't ask questions. He just said, "Where is she?" We led him to Elisa's room. The door was closed, but before we even opened it, he raised his hand, stopping us. Then he leaned closer to the door and listened for a few seconds. Then he stepped back and whispered, "It's aware." I felt my chest tighten again, because of the way he said it. Not surprised, not afraid, just certain. He opened the door himself, slowly, and we followed behind him. Elise was sitting on the bed, facing the wall again, exactly the same position, like she had never moved. The priest stepped inside, and the moment he crossed the doorway, she spoke, without turning around. "You took your time." The priest stopped. He didn't respond right away. Then he said, "I'm not here for you." She laughed, soft, slow. Then finally, she turned her head and looked at him. Not like before. This time, her expression was calm, too calm, like she was completely comfortable, like she had been waiting for him. "You always say that," she said. The priest's hands tightened. I noticed it immediately, because that was the first sign that he was losing control. He started the prayer, quiet at first, then louder, stronger. The other two men stepped in, preparing everything: water, crosses, scripture. The ritual began. At first, nothing happened. Elise just sat there, listening, almost bored. Then slowly, she smiled and said, "You already know this doesn't work." The priest raised his voice, ignoring her, continuing the prayer, faster now, more aggressive. And that's when it changed. The air dropped, not gradually, instantly, like something cut the warmth out of the room. The candles flickered, then dimmed, then one went out, then another, then all of them. Darkness filled the room, only a faint light from outside, barely enough to see. Then Elise spoke again, but this time it wasn't her voice. "You said my name first." The priest stopped, just for a moment, but that moment was enough, because when he continued, something was already different. His voice was shaking, not much, but enough to hear. Elise stood up, slowly, even though she was tied. The ropes didn't stop her. They didn't tighten. They didn't resist. They just followed, like they weren't real anymore. She stepped forward, one step, then another, until she was directly in front of him. And then she leaned closer and whispered something only he could hear. The priest's face changed instantly. Fear, real fear, not doubt, not hesitation, fear. He stepped back, and Elise smiled wider. Then she said, out loud this time, "You've been carrying us for years." The room went silent. No one moved, no one spoke, because something about that sentence felt true, too true. The priest shook his head, trying to deny it, trying to regain control, but his voice didn't come out. He opened his mouth, nothing, and Elise spoke for him, using his voice, exact, perfect, word for word, repeating the prayer before he could even think it. That's when everything broke. Not just the ritual, not just the room. Reality itself started slipping. Reality didn't break all at once. It shifted, slowly, like something was being adjusted, just slightly out of place. The sound in the room felt delayed. The priest moved, but his shadow didn't follow immediately. The candles were already out, but I could still see the flame, for a second longer than it should exist. Like everything was happening twice, not at the same time, but almost.
Elise stepped closer to the priest. Her feet didn't make a sound, not even a soft one, like she wasn't touching the floor anymore. Then she tilted her head and spoke again, still using his voice. "You were never removing us." A pause. Then she smiled. "You were learning how to carry us." The priest shook his head again, more aggressively this time, trying to deny it, trying to break whatever was happening. He forced his voice out just barely. "This is not you." Elise blinked, slow, deliberate, then answered, "You've said that before." The other priests stepped forward. One of them grabbed her arm, tried to pull her back, but the moment he touched her, he froze, completely, like his body stopped responding. His hand was still on her, but he wasn't moving, not even breathing properly. Elise didn't even look at him. She just said, "You shouldn't touch what you don't understand." And then he collapsed. Not pushed, not thrown. He just dropped, like something inside him let go. The second priest stepped back, fear completely visible now. He started praying again, louder, faster, but his voice kept breaking because Elise was repeating everything. Same words, same timing, perfect synchronization, like an echo that was always ahead. The main priest tried to continue, but his mouth stopped again. No sound, and Elise spoke in his place. Not just the prayer this time, something else, something older. "Beelzebub is not a name." She stepped forward again, closer to him. "It is a door." The temperature dropped even more. But now, it didn't feel cold. It felt wrong, like something was decaying inside the air itself. The priest dropped the cross. It hit the floor, but made no sound. I stared at it, because I saw it fall, but I didn't hear it land. That's when I understood. This wasn't just possession. Something else was happening. Something bigger. Something that wasn't limited to her body. Elise turned, slowly, and looked at me. For the first time since everything started. Not through me, at me, directly. And in that moment, I felt something inside my head shift, like a thought that wasn't mine was trying to settle in. She smiled and said, using my voice, "Daniel." My chest locked. I couldn't breathe because I didn't say it, but I heard it perfectly, exactly how I sound, coming from her. The priest dropped to his knees, not in prayer, in defeat, and he whispered, "It's not inside her." Elise's smile widened, and she answered, "We're not inside anything." A pause. Then, "We're already here." The second priest tried to run. He reached the door, grabbed the handle, pulled. Nothing. The door didn't move. Not locked. Not stuck. Just not responding. Like it wasn't a door anymore. Elise turned slightly toward him. "You don't leave until we're done." Then she looked back at the main priest and said, "You were the first door." The priest shook his head, weak now, broken. "No." But Elise stepped closer and whispered, "You opened it." Then everything stopped. Instantly. The pressure, gone. The cold, gone. The silence, gone. Elise collapsed. The ropes loosened, fell away from her arms. The door opened. The air felt normal again, like nothing had happened. The priests didn't speak. They didn't explain. They didn't even look at us. They just left. Immediately. The main priest paused at the doorway, just for a second, then said, "Don't say the name again." And then he walked out. That was 3 weeks ago. Elise is normal now, sleeping again, eating, laughing, like nothing ever happened, like we imagined everything. But last night, I woke up again, 2:17 a.m., exactly the same time, and I heard something, not from her room, from mine, a whisper, from above me, from the ceiling, using my voice. "You're ready now." I didn't move. I didn't respond. But this time, I understood. It never left. It just found another door. If you're listening to this, be careful, because once you hear the name, it already knows yours, and it doesn't need to enter, because it's already here.
If you love the slow burn of fear, the stories that creep under your skin, subscribe now. Don't fight the darkness. Let it follow you.